The Cape Cod Commission releases its Draft 208 plan. Details on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Wednesday, August 27th, 2014. I'm Sarah Colvin. Supported by more than 6,000 pages of analysis, recommendations, and background documents, the Cape Cod Commission released the public draft narrative of the Section 208 Water Quality Management Plan update for comment. The release opened a 90-day public review and comment period through November 20th. Cape Cod Commission Executive Director Paul Niedzwiecki talked to us about the plan. He explains that the 208 plan is a regional water quality management plan.
And 208, the numbers themselves refer to Section 208 of the Clean Water Act. The Clean Water Act was passed in 1972. It was really geared at two different kinds of pollutants, pollutants coming out of a pipe and then those pollutants that are just generally discharged through groundwater. It did a great job at cleaning up point sources, and the 208 plans were regional plans that were funded by the federal government in the 70s. And the first one for the Cape was done in 1978. And when we read through that plan now, it actually was very good at forecasting the kind of situations we would likely to see with nitrogen and increased population growth if people continue to rely heavily on on-site wastewater discharge. So the first plan we did was in 1978. That happened to be the last plan we did also, because the federal government really got out of funding those sort of regional planning efforts and any capital construction efforts in the 80s. So in January of 2013, the governor charged the Cape Cod Commission to update that 1978 plan specifically as it relates to nitrogen. And that was to help coordinate a lot of the planning and the local planning that had been done by the towns over the last 10 years and working on wastewater. And so we really got to work on this and had a kickoff in last July. With a deadline for submitting the draft plan of June 1st, 2014. And so we made that deadline. We've submitted that draft. We're talking about that draft with regulatory agencies right now, the State Department of Environmental Protection, the US EPA. And we are getting ready to release that draft to the public in the first week.
The draft was released this week. Public hearings are scheduled for September and October. In Barnstable, a hearing will be held on October 7th in the evening at the Innovation Room at the County Complex.
What we took a look at are 57 potentially nitrogen-sensitive watersheds. And they really comprise about 70% of the total land mass on the Cape. Now, of those 57 nitrogen-sensitive watersheds, 2/3 of them cross town boundaries. So if towns aren't closely coordinating planning and remedial efforts, it really can waste taxpayer money. So the effort has been aimed at that. So what we did is we took those 57 watersheds, we grouped them into 11 groups based on the water bodies that they were draining into. And we had 11 watershed working groups. And so we worked with 170 people Cape-wide over the last year in trying to put this plan together in a very sort of decentralized way, not driving towards an optimal outcome or an optimal or preferred plan in every watershed, but really defining the parameters between the traditional approaches that have been taken and some of the new alternative approaches that we think will be viable on the Cape, and then allowing those choices to be made on a local or a hyper-local level.
The 208 plan has a regional focus. Instead of examining each town separately, the plan takes a look at Cape Cod's watersheds.
Enhanced natural systems, dredging, the use of oysters, which is a historic industry on the Cape, as well as a potential remediation effort, permeable reactive barriers, constructed wetlands, and ways to really use and amplify nature to have a more natural process and a way to deal with nitrogen. But most of the nitrogen comes from people. We've had a 400% increase in the residential population between 1950 and 1990. And then 80% of the total nitrogen problem on the Cape comes from these on-site wastewater systems. And what we have to keep in mind is that the Cape has a year-round population of about 216,000 people. That's less than 4% of the total Commonwealth's population, and we have 20% of the on-site Title V systems.
Wow.
So that's why sewering really isn't an affordable option in many places on the Capes. We just don't have the density, and we don't have any existing infrastructure for the most part.
The goal of the 208 plan is to find and implement solutions to water quality problems on Cape Cod. Niedzwiecki explains that part of the 208 plan asks if there are ways to enhance nature's ability to deal with nitrogen.
We give an overview of the process, the stakeholder engagement process, and then we get in two of the chapters into watershed scenarios, how we should look at watersheds and potential solutions there. And then we talk specifically in one chapter about all of those new alternative technologies. You know, I think I rather naively at the beginning of the process thought that there would be some foldout in the back of a textbook somewhere that would just list everything. That really didn't exist, so we had to create it, and that technologies matrix is already being used in other parts of the country. So it really follows the basic outline that we had the stakeholders in, which what is everything we know about this particular watershed? What are all the technologies we think will work within this watershed? And then how do we put those together in a scenario planning process that can involve as many people as possible in that watershed making that choice?
The plan itself is massive, a 300-page narrative with 8 chapters.
The way the regulatory system works now, it requires a town to come forward with what's known as CWMP, or Comprehensive Wastewater Management Plan. And so towns are forced to plan to their town jurisdictions without any regard to the watersheds that they're covering or not covering or sharing. And so that sometimes results in plans that are too big and too speculative and too far off. So what we push for is more of a targeted watershed plan here, where we know that we have problems in a watershed and there is consensus about how to move forward with it. We want to be able to amplify that through the 208 process and have those projects move forward and get funding. And so that's what the plan really tries to.
And it's not just solutions, but how to implement those solutions, taking existing good local plans and helping them move forward towards remediation.
It'll be out for 90 days. A 90-day public comment period. There will be a series of 4 sub-regional public hearings on that on the upper, mid, lower, and outer Cape. We will get that period will close in November. We'll have 45 to 60 days to respond to those comments, and then the final will be due in January 2015. So we've probably done a 3 to 5 year planning process in about 12 months. And it's a very innovative document. It takes a new look and a new approach in order to get environmentally effective strategies that are affordable. That plan will be submitted in its final format in January, and then we'll have to wait for approval from the state agencies. But DEP and EPA have both been working pretty closely with us. We're in contact with them, so I don't at this point see that they're not approving it as a problem right now. The real question is, how do we then tailor resources to support the implementation and the ongoing maintenance and operation of the strategies that will be implemented.
Now that the plan has been released, the public comment period is open and public hearings will commence. Niedzwiecki explains the process.
Falmouth just got some wastewater money at town meeting. Mashpee's going to file their CWMP. Harwich has their CWMP. Chatham has theirs approved and they're building, and Orleans is close to deriving some consensus down there. Wellfleet's underway with oysters. So the 208 plan, I think, has really helped to have this one discussion at the same time Cape-wide, supporting all of those efforts and bringing some resources down here to help us solve this problem.
The 208 plan is available for view at www.cape20.org. That's the number 20.org, and capecodcommission.org/208. Public hearings will be held in Wellfleet, Chatham, Barnstable, and Mashpee beginning on September 10th. Well, be sure to tune in to our weekly morning news program, Barnstable This Morning. We're on the air Monday through Friday at 7 a.m., bringing you news, information, and interviews to help keep you up to date with what's happening in Barnstable. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Colvin.